Alrighty, what is going on YouTube? Welcome back to a brand new review. Today I'll be talking about how I'm up a little bit over $62,000 across all the accounts in the trading day overall. So a beautiful session today, which we can go over. And we were 1 and done, starting off the week terrifically. 2-0. 1-0 yesterday, and then through New York, and then 1-0 today. And so yeah, a beautiful session where we ended up seeing price actually seeing some follow through. And let's get into it. So off the open, looking at our buys through higher time frame coming into the open, I wasn't extremely one-sided, right? Because yet again, we were still seeing price trade in this range. If I had to lean towards one way, it would have been upside, obviously, because we had a PDL double getting taken out to yesterday's New York price, and we had seen overnight price essentially just kind of build off that. I know we did have a pretty large wick here, but we ended up seeing price essentially come back up after the initial move, and then see price look to trade back up higher. So if we briefly scroll down on the 5-minute time frame, you guys know the importance of the opening range move. After identifying that PDL was swept and PDH was open previous day high, and knowing how price has been in this range, I was kind of leaning with that upside narrative, again, utilizing overnight price and looking at the opening range move. The opening range move was a move down here into our London low sell side, and we had seen a move back up through price action where you had seen price reclaim above and showcase a bullish sequence. We then ended up seeing price come up here, then saw a push into our London highs, then we simply saw price from there essentially look to trade higher price initially, then come back down and retrace. So at this point in time, before I had interest in going long, one thing I did want to see price do and offer was offer a retracement in the market, right? So we had seen low get taken out, we had seen a high get taken out. For some people, this could have been confusing because we had seen sell side and buy side get taken out. We had seen a low and a high get taken out. But again, referencing the hourly, you could see that yesterday's New York took out PDL, and being and recognizing how range bound we've been in the past couple of weeks, I felt it was appropriate to assume with the factor that overnight price was decently bullish off the Asia Open. As long as price through New York didn't reclaim below that previous day low, I felt price was clear, and the low that we had put in was pretty clear. And that opening range move here being bullish overall showcased that to me. And so, yeah, we ended up seeing a retracement here. I wanted to see a retrace in the market for a potential opportunity into going long. And the importance of a retracement here is not just for entry, it's also for a bias as well. Because if we retrace, we see this 5-minute gap, which I had marked out, right? This 5-minute gap right here get taken out. And then also this 1-minute gap get taken, right? Rebalance and shoot higher. That most likely means that price will look to draw higher, right? So it's kind of that higher time frame, lower time frame alignment. We initially see price come down here, invert this 1-minute gap, but then what you see actually end up created is a 1-minute bearish BPR. If you don't know what that is, that's essentially where you have a failed bullish gap alongside a bearish gap, right? So an inversion, bearish fair value gap, or inversion, bearish fair value gap, and then you have a bearish standard fair value gap. So it's kind of, you have two bearish arrays within one zone, which sometimes acts as a double confluence, and it's just like, it's essentially a double zone where price typically tends to, whenever we have a reaction off it, you'll see more of a move, because instead of one area of array, instead of one gap, we have now two in the same zone. So that's kind of something I use quite frequently. And so for me specifically, my buys at this point in time were still higher because we didn't see that full, we didn't showcase that full reversal back down lower. And instead, what I told my chat, and I kind of posted it here, we can kind of go over it. I said, ideal, 1-minute bearish PPR forms inside the 5-minute bullish fair value gap. If we can hold the 5-minute gap plus invert the bearish PPR, I like the entry for higher draw. Two bullish sequences in one, confirming upside interest. So essentially, as long as we were able to hold the 5-minute gap, rebalance off that, showcase a retest, then move back up, and then also invert this 1-minute bearish PPR, I felt like those two confluences right there were good enough for an entry model, right? Kind of that double confluence where you see price showcase two bullish sequences in one. Can't beat that in my opinion. And so we ended up seeing that happen, and at 11:12 a.m., which I believe is my time, because I'm an hour ahead. I live in Puerto Rico. I mentioned that I am long, and so if you go to NQ right here and you see me when I mention I'm long, I mentioned right after the candle closure, and you see me mention I'm long here at the exact time of when we took this trade. So you kind of see me mention that. Here's the trade execution. Also, we have live recordings in here, which kind of showcases that as well. But we end up taking this trade, and we end up taking this trade at the exact time of when when price ends up actually rebouncing off the 5-minute gap and also inverting this 1-minute bearish BPR. And so we take the trade here. We end up having our stop, or we end up having our stops the swing low. Usually, sometimes I'll keep stops a bit tighter, sometimes a bit wider. If you're ever confused on that, just look at price. For me, price specifically, if we're a bit wickier, or if we're seeing price in a state of consolidation before an entry, I feel maybe having a bit wider of a stop is better, because even though we're in a state of consolidation, this does not mean that price wants to invalidate this does not mean that price wants to invalidate your bias, nor does it want to invalidate your trade. It just simply is in a state of consolidation, right? You look at kind of what we ended up doing overnight, pretty consolidative, then we made a move. And now you look at price here, pretty consolidative, and then we made a move. So that's kind of what I did there, just to kind of offset and not have the potential of, since price was already wicky, coming back down, looking us out, and then still seeking validation. So a pretty good entry. We end up taking the trade. We initially come back down, retrace off the entry, but then we see price ultimately come back up, and we see good validation off the trade, where we end up seeing price come up here once high of days taken. You see me mention that I am break even stops right here. And then our take profit one on this trade here was this, this PDH level, right? So the initial high that we put in was through an hourly gap fill. And this target that we had in this trade was higher above, obviously, and it was our previous day high. And we end up seeing price come up here, and we end up seeing price smash that. And you see right when PDH gets taken, we end up trimming 2 out of our 3 contracts here, right? And we end up riding the rest, or the final contract, with the trailed stop in place. You end up seeing me mention that as well. Beautiful trade. And just good trade overall, right? Good stop loss placement, recognition of price action before the entry, kind of consolidative. Then you see price essentially flourish. We trade past that hourly gap fill. Once we reclaim above NQ's high, very clear and obvious. Then we see price come up here around PDH. We simply then go trail stop from there. And now we realize the day for about a $750 gain per account on Lucid. And overall, I am up around $39,000 on these Lucid accounts. This includes my live account, Lucid and Tradeify, and then my TPT included as well. Puts me up a little bit over 60 on the session. So a beautiful day, beautifully executed session, back on pace, back on track, and it's every day. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy the review. Catch you guys in the next one.